Yeah, I know. This is an age-old discussion that is always kind of unproductive and doesn't really go anywhere because people just can't seem to agree. This is just my 2 cents on the whole matter. It's the internet, everybody gets a soapbox to yell from. And I do recall being a teenager and getting into metal at that time in the early 2000s, which by this point is like 25 years ago or almost 25 years ago. So yeah, what is time? Where does it go? Where am I? When am I? Anyway, at that time, to me, there seemed to be about 7 metal genres. Heavy, thrash, death, black, folk power, and nu metal. And nothing else mattered. And as a teen, I felt kind of proud of myself for knowing the difference between all of these genres, but to be fair, I was kind of a dumb kid, but find me a kid who isn't a little dumb. Now I'm older and I feel like things have never been more confusing when it comes to metal and genres. And sometimes I think if I was a teenager now, I would just give up. Usually when I see this discussion come up online, I just think to myself, none of this actually really matters, does it? I'm a simple metalhead, song goes hard, me happy. Who cares if it's like Norwegian black and folk death pirate core or whatever? And you always have the people that say, no, genres matter. This matters a lot, actually. And so I thought, I'm gonna try to see it from their perspective for once, instead of just being dismissive and being like, it doesn't matter. And the main argument for genres is always, well, it just helps you find more bands that sound similar that you might like. And I absolutely understand that, and it's a very logical reason to have labels and genres for music, of course. For instance, if you like Nightwish, you might also like Epica, or Within Temptation, and maybe even Elevati. If you like Spiritbox, why don't you try Ginger or Arch Enemy? Are you into Lorna Shore? Try Whitechapel or Slaughter to Prevail, maybe. You get the point. On the other hand, I feel like too many genres can get confusing. And also, while it can be fun to discuss genres, I feel like it often devolves into fighting over what genre what band belongs to, and I will say it does get a little funny and even more confusing when a band doesn't want to belong to a specific genre. Like Korn, for instance, they apparently don't like being categorized as a nu metal band, even though many people say they are a pioneering band in the genre even, so yeah, what can you do, really? And then there's also a lot of bands that just change their sound over time, so they might start out in one genre and then sort of go over into another genre or experiment with different stuff. And also, it's perfectly understandable that musicians just want to try other things sometimes, that they want to keep things interesting for themselves. It might work, it might not work. Some fans will not care, others will get mad, because that's just how it is. But personally, I will never hate a band for experimenting and trying other things, but sometimes I will end up not really liking what they do, and that's pretty normal. It's just not really anything to get mad about. But anyway, and one other thing I want to say about metal genres is I think genres that describe the general theme of what the music's band is about are kind of useless. You know the ones: Viking metal, war metal, pirate metal, sure, okay. I don't find that really tells me much about what kind of music I can expect. First of all, even bands that you can, I guess, classify under these genres usually don't exclusively have songs about that one theme and one theme only. Secondly, there's a lot of bands that have songs about like war and Vikings and stuff, I suppose, but they can be vastly different in sound and style. War metal can range from death to power metal to folk even. Viking metal could be folk-ish, but the biggest Viking metal band that I know of, at least, is still Amon Amarth, and stylistically, they're a death metal band. They just happen to have a lot of songs that revolve around Norse mythology. Now, Sabaton is sometimes referred to as a war metal band because they have a lot of songs about historical conflicts. But stylistically, they're more like power metal or heavy metal, if you will. Also, there's tons of other bands that have songs about war and historical battles and stuff in pretty much every genre, from power metal to death metal to black metal to folk, probably too, although I can't think of one right now, but it doesn't really matter. There's probably some folk band out there that's like doing war metal, but while being a folk band. So what I'm trying to say is a good name for a metal genre needs to kind of give you an idea of what music you can expect. I feel like names like thrash, power, death, black really give you quite a good idea of like the general feel and vibes of the music. Like, thrash is faster and has a bit of a messier feel to it, I guess. Death is very dark and hard-hitting. Black is even darker. Power has a huge epic feel to it. Doom is slow and depressing. I mean, you get it, right? So when I hear Viking metal, I tend to think, is the music influenced by like ancient Norse culture or something? So personally, I'm just sort of expecting a band that leans more into folk metal. Or is like a folk band, like Heilung is a band that I feel like fits that bill, but they're not a metal band. Their music doesn't even involve any guitars, it's all just based on ancient European tribal history. I love this band, I've seen them play at metal festivals, but they're musically speaking really not a metal band at all. Even if their style and vibe does overlap quite a bit with what metal fans tend to like, with like ancient Celtic and Norse stuff, you often see that style in a lot of the fashion metalheads tend to wear, especially at festivals and particularly in Europe. So yeah, when you tell me, oh, my band is war metal, I'm gonna be like, are there like machine gun noises in there or something? Like, what does it sound like? It's not gonna be all like tanks and machine guns, right? It could be death metal or black metal or whatever, but like war metal is like something I don't personally believe in. Nor Viking metal, nor pirate metal, nor any of those names that basically just describe the theme of what the band has songs about. Okay, the next thing I have some thoughts on are fusion genres. And I guess in this day and age, a lot of those are core genres. So any flavor of like metalcore and deathcore, but also things like Black Gaze, for instance. So essentially any metal genre that combines a metal influence with a genre that isn't strictly speaking metal. And the next thing I'm gonna say may be somewhat controversial in some circles of metalheads, but listen, okay? In my personal opinion, metalcore genres do belong under the broader metal umbrella. I mean, it's right there in the name. And I'm aware of basic metal history, okay? I know heavy metal came from hard rock. I know hardcore came from punk rock, but you see, if you pay close attention, you will see the word rock return here a couple of times. So it all came from rock music. And if you ask me, it really was only a matter of time before genres that stem from punk and genres that stem from heavy metal started to mingle and go on dates and gift each other flowers and jewelry and trips to Hawaii and make sweet love and make beautiful music babies. So as far as I care, they're all branches on the big tree that is awesome guitar music. And I know this is another one of those age-old discussions that never really go anywhere, but from what I can tell, most people, at least the people that I know, also don't really care that much as long as the music is good. Anyway, I usually feel that it's pretty obvious what a fusion genre is about. Metalcore obviously has elements of both metal and hardcore. Deathcore has death metal and hardcore and/or metalcore and so on and so forth. I will say, especially these days, you see a lot of bands combine metal and metalcore with genres that are not anywhere near the realm of metal, really, and make that work really well. But as a consequence, you then also tend to end up with a ton more names for genres, and it all gets a bit convoluted and a bit confusing, but still, it's all in good fun as long as the name of the genre gives you an idea of what you can expect from the music. Also, with a lot more bands from all over the world getting quite popular, these bands naturally take influence of the country and culture they grew up in, so you end up with stuff like J-metal. Like, baby metal is like J-pop plus metal, and J-pop is this very typical Japanese pop music. Sometimes, however, I'm not sure how I really feel about including the name of the country of origin in a metal genre. In the case of baby metal, it makes sense. In the case of a band like Bloodywood, which is dubbed Indian folk metal, it's completely relevant because they do include traditional Indian instruments in their music and they sing in Hindi. And so calling Indian metal makes total sense. On the other hand, I don't really care for calling a band like Electric Callboy German electronic core specifically, because it just doesn't really seem that relevant since the majority of their songs are in English anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much that they're from Germany. It's kind of like calling Gojira a French death metal band. Like, I guess you can do that, but it doesn't really say much about the kind of music you're gonna get because Gojira also majorly sings in English. All it really says is where the band is from, but I don't really think that matters a ton if the music isn't heavily influenced by the band's country and culture. And I suppose there's always going to be some influence from your cultural background, so I guess you can include the country and the genre, but that brings me to my next point. I do feel like you can get too specific with genres. Like, I made the joke about Norwegian folk death piratecore, or what was it? And it's always fun to discuss what influences a band has in their music. Absolutely understand that. It's just, that doesn't mean you have to include every influence that band has in their music in the genre that you want to classify them under. Because I feel like then you just end up with every band just having their own micro-genre, and I find that unnecessary, especially for people that are just getting into metal. They're just gonna be confused. And of course, if you feel like genres do matter and you want to have as many genres as you possibly can in metal, then you do that. You do you. It's totally fine. I personally don't really care that much about it. When I like a band, I like them. I listen to metal bands from most genres, I would say. I listen to a ton of other music as well, so I just like good music. Or I just like music that I like, which is something that goes for pretty much everybody, I think. So I guess maybe this was a pretty pointless video, but anyway, I hope you found this interesting. If there are things you want to add or opinions you want to share with me, that's what the comment section is for. That concludes my lukewarm music take. I will see you in the next video, and in the meantime, be kind to one another and to yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye!